It is October in Yellowstone National Park. The morning air holds the first bite of winter. Frost clings to the sagebrush, and across the Hayden Valley, something ancient is about to unfold. A pack of gray wolves moves through the grassland, 15 strong. The Wapiti Lake Pack, one of the largest in the park. They are hunting. Their bodies are lean, their movements synchronized through years of working together. But they are not alone. Half a mile behind them, a shadow follows. 800 pounds of muscle, fat, and raw power, a male grizzly bear. And he has no intention of hunting today, he is going to steal. This is the reality of two apex predators sharing the same valley. This is the daily negotiation of power, strategy, and survival that has played out across these mountains for thousands of years. And the question has never been simple. Who truly owns this land? To understand what is happening here, you need to understand what each animal is fighting for. The grizzly bear is in a state biologists call hyperphagia. It translates roughly to excessive hunger. During this period, which lasts from late summer through fall, a grizzly must consume up to 20,000 calories every single day. Some bears push that number to 30,000. Others, feeding on salmon-rich rivers in Alaska, have been documented consuming 60,000 calories in a single day. The math is brutal. A grizzly needs to gain 3 to 4 pounds of body fat daily if it is going to survive the 5 to 7 months of hibernation ahead. Its heart rate will drop from 80 beats per minute to fewer than 22. Its metabolism will slow to a crawl. It will not eat. It will not drink. It will not urinate. For half a year, everything depends on the fat reserves built during these autumn weeks. So when a grizzly sees a wolf pack, it does not see a competitor. It sees an opportunity. Wolves hunt, bears scavenge. And in Yellowstone, where both species now share the same territory, the bears have learned something remarkable. Following wolves increases their chances of finding a high-calorie meal. Doug Smith leads the Yellowstone Wolf Project. He has been studying this relationship since wolves were reintroduced to the park in 1995. And what he has observed over the decades defies simple narratives about who dominates whom. One time, Smith watched a single grizzly bear hold 24 wolves at bay over an elk carcass. The wolves had done the work. They had tracked the elk. They had coordinated the chase. They had brought it down. And the bear took it. But that is not the whole story. The wolves are calculating too. Here's what most people miss about wolf hunting. It is one of the most dangerous activities any predator can engage in. Elk weigh up to 700 pounds. Their hooves can shatter bones. Their antlers can gore a wolf in seconds. Moose are even worse. Bison are 3 times harder to kill than elk. Studies show that only about 10% of wolf hunts in Yellowstone are successful. The rest are failed chases, near misses, and close calls with injury. So when a grizzly bear approaches a fresh kill, the wolves are running calculations. Is this carcass worth defending? How many pack members might get hurt in a confrontation? Is it safer to let the bear take this meal and simply hunt again? Usually the answer is clear. Let the bear have it. Hunting is dangerous and often unsuccessful. It is better for wolves to wait their turn at a carcass that has been usurped by a bear than to continue hunting. This is not cowardice. It is economics. But that calculation changes when the numbers shift. In October of 2020, a tour guide named Adam Brubaker witnessed something extraordinary in the Hayden Valley. A grizzly bear was foraging across a field when the Wapiti Lake Pack began crossing his path. The bear stood on its hind legs. In that moment, it was over 9 feet tall. It was surveying the situation, assessing the threat. Then it did something unexpected. It walked toward the wolves. What happened next lasted 15 minutes. 2 wolves became 5. 5 became 15. And suddenly, the grizzly had a problem. The wolves did not attack to kill. They moved in a coordinated pattern, circling, nipping, orbiting around the bear like mosquitoes around a hiker's head. One wolf bit the bear from behind. When the bear turned, another approached from the opposite side. Doug Smith has described this behavior precisely. The wolves just constantly orbit around the bear. They are not trying to bring it down. They are trying to exhaust it, to make staying more costly than leaving, and it works. The grizzly lumbered into the trees. The wolves escorted it out of their territory. But here is the critical detail that most observers missed. As soon as the wolf pack moved on, the bear came back out. Neither side won. Neither side lost. Both sides survived. This is the true nature of apex predator interactions. They are not battles to the death. They are negotiations. Risk versus reward. Calories in versus energy spent. Every encounter is a calculation, and both species have evolved to make smart decisions. The grizzly bear possesses raw physical dominance that wolves simply cannot match. Adult males weigh 400 to 800 pounds. Their claws extend 2 to 4 inches. Their bite force approaches 1,000 pounds per square inch. Their bodies are covered in thick layers of fat and muscle that absorb impacts. A single swipe from a grizzly can be fatal to any wolf. But wolves possess something the bear does not. Numbers, coordination, endurance. A wolf can maintain a chase speed of 40 kilometers per hour for extended distances. Wolves work in packs averaging 5 to 10 individuals, sometimes up to 20. They communicate through body language, vocalizations, and scent marks. They specialize roles during hunts. Some drive prey from behind. Others flank to cut off escape routes. Still others wait to intercept. They can pursue prey for 8 hours a day, covering 40 miles through winter terrain. No grizzly can match that stamina. So the question of who owns the valley depends entirely on context. At a carcass, the grizzly almost always wins. Smith has documented multiple instances where a single bear controlled a kill site with 10 wolves present. He has seen 4 bears and 10 wolves gathered at the same carcass, with the largest bear controlling everything while the wolves and smaller bears waited their turn. But near a wolf den, the dynamics shift. Mother wolves defending pups show levels of aggression that even grizzlies respect. Pack coordination intensifies. The harassment becomes relentless. And in open territory with no food at stake, both species typically avoid each other entirely. Neither wants to risk injury in a pointless confrontation. There is a scientific term for what the grizzly does when it follows wolves and steals their kills. Kleptoparasitism. Parasitism through theft. It sounds clinical, but in the field, it looks like something far more complex. In October of 2021, National Park Service biologists filmed footage that went viral. A grizzly bear was traveling with the Junction Butte wolf pack. Not near them, with them, for weeks. The bear followed the wolves on their morning hunts. It watched them pursue elk herds, and when the pack successfully brought down a cow elk, the bear charged in and took the carcass. The wolves did not fight. They waited. From the grizzly's perspective, this strategy makes perfect sense. Following a wolf pack increases access to fresh meat without expending the energy or risking the injury that comes with hunting. An elk carcass provides massive amounts of protein and fat exactly when the bear needs it most. From the wolf's perspective, it also makes sense. A bear's presence decreases their overall kill rate because they spend time waiting to see if the bear will leave scraps. But waiting is less dangerous than hunting again. Both species benefit. Both species pay a cost. And somehow they coexist. This coexistence is relatively new in Yellowstone. For 70 years, wolves were absent from this landscape. They were exterminated by the 1920s through systematic predator control programs. During that absence, elk populations exploded. By the early 1990s, nearly 20,000 elk roamed the northern range. They overgrazed willows, aspens, and cottonwoods. They denuded riverbanks. They transformed the ecosystem. Grizzly bears had the park largely to themselves during those decades. Their numbers dropped dangerously low by 1975, when only about 136 remained in Yellowstone. But without wolves to compete with, those bears occupied an uncontested ecological niche. Then, in 1995 and 1996, everything changed. Wildlife officials reintroduced 41 gray wolves from Canada. The animals took to their ancestral range like wildfire. By 2003, 98 wolves roamed the northern range. The effects cascaded through the entire ecosystem. Elk numbers dropped, not just from predation, but from behavioral changes. Herds no longer lingered in riparian areas where they could be ambushed. They moved more. They grazed less intensively in any single location. Willows and aspens began recovering after decades of suppression. Beaver colonies returned. In 1995, there was only one beaver colony in Yellowstone. By 2003, there were 49. By 2021, the number continued to climb. The beavers built dams. The dams created ponds. The ponds supported fish, amphibians, and waterfowl. Scientists call this a trophic cascade, the indirect effects of predators rippling downward through food webs. But the grizzly bears noticed something else. With wolves back in the landscape, carcasses became more available throughout the year. Bears that had relied primarily on vegetation, insects, and occasional carrion now had access to regular protein subsidies courtesy of wolf hunting. Doug Smith puts it bluntly. Yellowstone's grizzlies are benefiting from the wolves' presence due to their ability to successfully usurp the large canids' meals. The relationship is not friendly, it is not cooperative, but it is functional. Today, Yellowstone is home to approximately 100 wolves across 10 packs. Grizzly bear numbers have rebounded to over 700 in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Both species occupy the same valleys, the same meadows, the same rivers. They cross paths constantly. They compete for the same food, and they have developed an intricate system of negotiated boundaries. The wolves possess the numbers, the coordination, the endurance. The bears possess the strength, the power, the patience. Neither dominates absolutely, neither submits completely. The confrontation in Hayden Valley that October morning was not a battle for ownership. It was a conversation. A communication through posture and movement about what each side was willing to risk. The bear stood tall. That meant assessment, not aggression. The wolves circled. That meant harassment, not attack. The bear retreated. That meant the cost exceeded the benefit. The wolves moved on. That meant the territory was not permanently claimed. And the next day, it would happen again. Different carcass, different calculation, same negotiation. This is what coexistence looks like between apex predators. Not dominance, not submission. Constant recalibration. The valley does not belong to the wolves. It does not belong to the bears. It belongs to the tension between them. To the daily decisions about when to fight, when to yield, when to follow, when to steal. In Yellowstone, there is no king. There is only the endless negotiation of survival. And that negotiation has been running since before humans walked this continent. It will continue long after we are gone. The wolves hunt, the bears steal, the elk fall, the rivers run cleaner, the willows grow taller, and two apex predators share a valley that neither owns and both need. There is one more layer to this relationship that researchers are only beginning to understand. When a grizzly bear approaches a wolf den, something different happens. The stakes change entirely. Wolf dens contain pups, the future of the pack, and wolves at home sites exhibit levels of persistent aggression that exceed anything seen at carcass disputes. The reason is evolutionary. A carcass can be replaced. Tomorrow, there will be another hunt, another opportunity. But pups cannot be replaced. They represent months of investment, the continuation of genetic lines, the survival of the pack itself. So, when a grizzly approaches a den, attracted by the smell of food scraps and bone remnants that adult wolves bring back to feed their young, the pack does not negotiate. It attacks. Doug Smith has documented this directly. He watched wolves bite a bear approaching their den, nipping at its hindquarters when it turned. The pack did not relent. They orbited constantly. They harassed without pause. And the bear, despite its overwhelming physical advantage, eventually left. The cubs were worth more than any meal. But the bears have their own vulnerabilities. Female grizzlies with cubs are rarely successful at taking wolf kills. The need to protect vulnerable young overrides the drive to steal food. A mother bear cannot afford an injury. She cannot risk leaving her cubs exposed. So she yields in situations where a solitary male would dominate. And wolves know this. Documented instances exist of wolf packs targeting grizzly bear cubs specifically. Not for food. For elimination. A bear cub that survives becomes a future competitor. A bear cub that dies is one less rival for decades to come. This is not cruelty. It is strategy extending across generations. The Wyoming Game and Fish Department has documented multiple cub mortalities from wolf attacks. These incidents are rare. They require specific circumstances, usually a mother bear caught in the open, unable to reach defensive terrain. But they happen. And they remind us that in this valley, nothing is guaranteed. Every advantage is situational. Every outcome depends on variables that shift constantly. Consider the physical reality of both species in autumn. The grizzly bear's body is undergoing metabolic changes that would kill most mammals. Over 1,000 unique genes activate to make fat storage metabolically beneficial rather than harmful. Bears lose 20 to 40% of their body mass during hibernation, but emerge healthy in spring with no muscle loss. Meanwhile, the wolf pack prepares for the hardest months of the year. Deep snow slows elk, making them more vulnerable. But it also slows wolves, and injured wolves do not heal easily in sub-zero temperatures. Every calorie matters. Every successful hunt strengthens the group for the challenges ahead. Both species need the same resources. Both have developed strategies that maximize survival while minimizing catastrophic loss. The wolves hunt cooperatively, sharing risk across multiple individuals. The social structure provides redundancy. The bear operates alone, concentrating all risk in a single body. But solitary operation also means no food sharing, no competition within the group. Two completely different evolutionary strategies, coexisting in the same valley because neither is superior in all circumstances. When researchers analyzed 20 years of data following wolf reintroduction, they found something surprising. The relationship between these apex predators had not settled into a stable pattern. It was still evolving. Wolf packs were learning new behaviors. Bears were adapting to new competition. The ecosystem was reorganizing itself in real time. Riparian willows that had been suppressed for decades showed a 1,500% increase in average crown volume. That is not a typo. 1,500%. Beaver populations expanded from one colony to over 49. Songbirds returned to nest in recovering vegetation. Fish populations increased as shaded streams held more oxygen. Even the rivers themselves changed course as stabilized banks resisted erosion. And at the center of all these changes, two predators continued their daily negotiations. The grizzly that follows the wolf pack is not simply stealing meals. It participates in an ecological relationship that shapes everything downstream. The carcasses bears claim become feeding sites for ravens, magpies, coyotes, and eagles. The bones fertilize soils. Nutrients cycle through systems reaching from mountain peaks to river deltas. Nothing is wasted. Nothing exists in isolation. This is why the question of who owns the valley misses the point entirely. Ownership implies exclusion, control, dominance without negotiation. But ecosystems do not work that way. They work through relationships, through give and take, through predators that hunt and predators that steal and prey that falls, and scavengers that clean and plants that grow and rivers that flow. Remove the wolves, and elk overgraze the willows. Remove the bears, and carcasses become unavailable to smaller scavengers. Remove either apex predator, and the cascade fails. This is not a story about winners and losers. This is a story about balance, about systems so complex that removing one piece unravels everything. For 70 years, Yellowstone tried to function without wolves. It failed. Now both predators are back, and the ecosystem is finally relearning what it means to be whole. The grizzly bear fattening for winter, the wolf pack preparing to hunt, the elk watching the tree line, the ravens circling overhead waiting for scraps. Next spring, when the bears emerge from their dens, thin and hungry after months of sleep, they will look for the wolves again. They will follow. They will wait. They will take what they can, and the wolves will hunt. They will coordinate. They will bring down elk that no single predator could kill. And sometimes they will lose their meals to a competitor that simply walked in and claimed it. Neither side will win permanently. Neither side will lose completely. Because in this valley, there are no permanent victories. There is only the endless recalibration of survival. The morning frost melts under the October sun. The wolf pack moves across the meadow. The grizzly follows at a distance, patient, calculating, waiting for the hunt to begin. Another day in Yellowstone. Another negotiation between giants. This is the valley as it was meant to be. Not owned, shared.